Chapter 15. Crespi was getting undressed for bed when someone buzzed at his door. "Who is it?" "Lieutenant McGinnis, sir." "Just a moment." He quickly pulled his pants back on, and after a slight hesitation, grabbed for his overshirt. He had almost forgotten his dream from the night before, but her cool voice over the comm reminded him. He buttoned up and ran his hands through his hair. "Come in." McGinnis stepped into his quarters looking nothing like she had in his unpleasant dream. Her hair was tied back, her face strained and sleepy. Still, he almost felt embarrassed just looking at her. The smooth, full weight of her breast in his hand, her agile tongue. Whoosh. As if that didn't make things awkward enough, they were also going to have to clear a few things up about church. And, considering her emotional investment in the search, he might have to fall back on rank. He kept his tone controlled and official. "What is it, Lieutenant?" "I found something out very important, about church, and so have I, McGinnis." He smiled gently at her and hoped that she would listen and understand. "I've just spent 6 hours watching Colonel Dr. Church in action. The man is, to use a much abused term, a genius. The work he's doing here will change the face of science forever." McGinnis frowned, but he cut her off again. She wasn't getting it. "I realize that you had personal motivations, but Church is a total professional. As of this moment, you will desist spying around. Understood?" The lieutenant remained calm, her voice steady. "Sir, I've been pirating the station surveillance system. I followed Church's every move for the last 18 hours. I watched you and him dissect the alien," and Crespi sighed. He was going to have to make it a direct order, perhaps even limit her access to the main line. It was unfortunate, really. He liked the lieutenant well enough. And maybe more, Doctor, don't you think? But this had to stop. Church was opening doors to technological innovation that bordered on the mystical, true breakthroughs into... Her sharp, pleading tone cut his thoughts off. "Listen to me. He's toying with you, sir. The alien research is only a small part of what he's doing here. The station resource requirements don't jibe with consumption records. Do you understand? They don't match up. Something on board the Innominata is using a third again as much power as all the known systems, including the alien lab, combined." It took a few beats for her words to sink in. Crespi felt a slow but unstoppable shock course through him. It took a few beats for her words to sink in. Crespi felt a slow but unstoppable shock course through him, but he still struggled to stay on top, not wanting to believe her. "But what Church is doing, that would take up a lot..." McGinnis shook her head. "He has a hidden operation on board, something big that he doesn't want you to find. He's engaged your interest in the alien research to throw you off track. It's all on the record, sir. You can look for yourself." Was it possible? He thought about Church's strange smiles, the odd lapses at the autopsy, the sidestepping, the compliments. He turned his head, closed his eyes. Instinct. God damn it, instinct. Church is still holding you back. You know it. Crespi did know it. Maybe. He looked back at the lieutenant, waiting patiently for his response. He felt uncertain, but McGinnis had been straight with him so far, and Church had lied about the crew fatalities, or at least it seemed. If he'd been tricked. It had to be true. She said there was proof. He felt a cold, sudden hatred for Church, and a sudden warmth of gratitude to the woman who stood in front of him. "McGinnis, you're a good soldier. Do you know where the ghost facility is?" She seemed relieved, the small lines of tension in her face melting away. "I think so, sir. I believe it's located in K-Lab, down on his drone maze level. It's designated as a zero-G facility, but that's where the 30% power overage is going. Church has had 3 double-code, single-access locked doors installed, and it's not on the station mainline at all. Which means no one can get in but Church." "My name's Tony," he said absently. "Okay, you've convinced me. How do we get in?" McGinnis grinned tightly. Church has a code slate. If we can get that, I can extract the key. I saw him leave it on his private console in his Unity office. Crespi nodded. Where is he now? Took something. He should be out like a light by now. He took a deep breath. Can you get the slate? The bioscan won't let me in. You'll have to do it. Crespi hesitated, his brief certainty now wavering. This wasn't concept, it was reality. He would have to take action. If McGinnis was telling the truth, he had no choice. It almost certainly meant the end of Church's research, if he was doing something so illegal that it was being hidden from the core. And that would be an immeasurable loss of time and effort, his work with the alien telepathy wasted. There would be years of red tape before it could be started up again, if it ever was. And if he got caught, if she was lying, you'll know soon enough, won't you? Crespi spoke quickly, sounding calmer and more controlled than he felt. Stay here. I'll be right back. Use my private comm line if anything comes up. She nodded mutely, and he turned and walked out, before he could change his mind. After Crespi left, McGinnis sighed, sagged down onto the rumpled bed, and lay back. It had been a long couple of days, and she was exhausted. The sheets smelled pleasantly masculine, comforting scents from her time with David, soap and clean sweat, and also an odour that was distinctively Tony's. She closed her eyes, smiled sadly. That's Colonel Tony to you, Lieutenant. David was still too close, and she wasn't ready, at least not until this was over with. Although you could ask him to call you Sharon. She sat up, half amused by her moot speculation. It wasn't the time and definitely not the place. She looked at the clock on the wall, watched the seconds tick by, and wished Colonel Tony luck. He was probably going to need it. Crespi hurried to the lift and then stepped out into the unfamiliar corridor, feeling angry and nervous. He hadn't been to Church's Unity hole yet, though it wasn't technically off limits. The office was centrally located, most of the main labs branching out from it. Relax. The place should be deserted at this hour. True enough. He felt stupid anyway, skulking around like some kind of thief, particularly if Church was hiding something. He had a right, a duty, to find out the truth. He straightened his shoulders, hung a right at the end of the passageway. A small flight of stairs, then the office door. He paused outside the heavily armoured entry, and a fresh wave of anxiety flowed over him as he realised that he hadn't brought his piece. Not that he'd need it, necessarily, but not having it made him uncomfortable. What if what, Crespi? What if Church is lurking in there with a grenade launcher? Get the fucking slate and get on with it. Crespi pressed his thumb into the indented handplate and waited. In a few seconds the door swung open, leading through a small antechamber to another door. The lights were dim, but the passage was empty. He felt his guts loosen, and he chided himself for acting like a fool. He strode to the second entry, which slid open to reveal a dark office, the only light coming through a window wall at the far end of the large room. Past that was a combination office laboratory, and Crespi could see that the dim illumination came from a few monitors in there, blinking softly. Crespi's gaze darted to the main desk, littered with hard copy and empty coffee mugs. A hand-sized slate lay amid the clutter, on the keyboard of a small PC. He walked over and picked it up, shoved it into his breast pocket. See? Right where it was supposed to be. No fuss, no alarms, no armed marines telling you to drop it. He told his mind to shut up as he turned to leave the office. McGinnis would get the key. They could check out the private lab and get this whole covert business behind them. He stopped, turned back to the darkness. Something stank. Maybe a tech had left their donut out too long. There was a definite rotten odour. He could at least throw the thing away, whatever... Oh no. It had been a long time, but he knew that smell. Crespi froze. No sudden movements, but his brain screamed frantically, "Run, run, get the fuck out!" A string of warmth fell from above, splattered delicately on one shoulder. He looked up slowly, his nuts crawling into his body, his heart suddenly in the pit of his stomach. The drone above him shrieked and jumped.